Hello everyone, good morning. Sage again, live from the 𝐊𝐴𝐼𝐼 studios, and you're watching the opening bell. Let us cast an eye over how the market charter is panning out today on the ASX 200. Well, on Wednesday, the benchmark index made yet another all-time high of 7,218.9 and closed the session near the high of the day at 7,217.8. The key driving factors were better than expected. First quarter economic growth data with surging commodity prices supporting the mining sector. Overnight, the US stock markets seesawed while global equity markets rallied ahead of the closely watched Federal Reserve report that will glean insights into how companies are coping with rebounding consumer demand. And Wall Street inched higher at the open, only to erase most of the gains near midday trading. The Dow Jones gained 0.07% to 34,600.38, while the S&P 500 gained 0.14% to 4,208.12. Nasdaq Composite was up 0.14% to 13,756.33. So moving on, the US dollar traded almost flat on Wednesday in a choppy trading session after backing off an almost 5-month low versus major peers as market participants waited for employment data later in the week to get a clearer picture of the state of the US economic recovery. And on the other hand, the Australian and New Zealand dollars were also locked within tight ranges on Wednesday as upbeat domestic data and strength in global commodity prices failed to break the forex market's recent lethargy. And meanwhile, Treasury yields traded modestly lower on Wednesday morning between a tight range as market participants held off from marking big moves ahead of the private payrolls data on Thursday and the monthly federal jobs report on Friday. The benchmark yield has been bouncing off within a range of 1.55% to 1.64% for more than a week. Ahead of Friday's important US jobs data, market participants are eagerly aiming to assess what the increasing evidence of a faster than expected economic recovery would mean for central banks' policy in the country. Moving on to our next segment, let us zoom our lens on the Australian share market charter for the day. Taking a look at the energy sector first. Australian energy players such as Oil Search Limited, Beach Energy, Woodside Petroleum Limited and Santos Limited could extend their gains from the previous session. On Wednesday, the crude oil was up more than 1% as OPEC and its allies decided to stick to its plan to gradually restore supply, along with the slow pace of nuclear talks between the US and Iran. And WTI crude rose 1.61% to reach $68.81 US a barrel, while the Brent crude was up by 1.52% at US $71.32 on Wednesday. Let us move on to the miners space, one that is of great importance to us here in Australia. On Wednesday, a strong trend in the spot market led prices for the steelmaking raw materials on China's Dalian Commodity Exchange, or DCE, to jump in order to cope with the prices in the physical market. The most actively traded iron ore futures on the DCE, or the Dalian Commodity Exchange, for September month delivery closed 2.8% up at 1,169 yuan, or in US terms $182.95 per tonne. The futures jumped as much as 4.8% to 1,192 yuan a tonne earlier in the session. A huge surge in iron ore price seems to be a catalyst for iron ore miners today, and heavyweight miners such as Fortescue Metals Group, Rio Tinto and BHP Group will be closely eyed today. Meanwhile, the copper prices softened on Wednesday as firmer dollars sapped the metal's appeal. Investors also took some money off the table over worries about a dip in demand from the top consumer, China. The benchmark copper on the London Metal Exchange, or LME, fell 1.2% to reach US $10,124 per tonne, and that was current at 4 p.m. GMT. It's time now for a short break, but please don't move a muscle. We'll be right back after this. Property by 𝐊𝐴𝐚. Looking for a dream home? Well, that may sound easy, but it isn't. And from looking for a property that is the right fit for you in terms of cost and other factors, to zeroing down on the right mortgage plan, there are various aspects to consider. And for the latest lowdown on the property market, tune in on 𝐊𝐴𝐚 TV with me, Sage. I will give the latest updates on the property market as well as real estate stocks to help you make the right decision. Keep watching Property with 𝐊𝐴𝐚. Hi, welcome back. This is Sage and you are watching the opening bell, where we bring you all the notes from the Australian stock market open. And next up we have the yellow metal space to look at. The Australian gold miners such as Northern Star Resources Limited, De Grey Mining Limited and Gold Resources, Ramelius Resources and Silver Lake Resources Limited. They will all be under the investor spotlight today. On Wednesday, the gold prices inched up, hovering just below a near 5-month peak hit in the previous session as the US Treasury yields pulled back, while the market participants awaited the key economic data this week that will shed more light on the outlook for inflation. And now let us take a look at the major newsmakers in the ASX today. Beginning with the Australian conglomerate Wesfarmers Limited, who have said that its retail businesses will be witnessing robust growth in sales, even as it has now begun to cycle the impact of COVID-19 from the previous year. It further said online growth and moderated as customers' traffic to stores had increased and online penetration had reduced but remained above pre-COVID levels. Our next news comes from the global lithium company Galaxy Resources, who have upgraded its production guidance. For the full year, the miner has shipped 33,500 wet metric tonnes in May, and pricing for the third quarter scheduled shipment was expected to surpass US $750 per tonne. Given the sustained high production rate, Galaxy's full year guidance has increased to 195,000 to 210,000 dry metric tonnes, up from the previous range of between 185,000 to 200,000 dry metric tonnes. Another major update is the Australian-based regenerative medicine company Mesoblast's revenue fell in the first quarter from the previous year, down 84.3% to $1.92 million, and the result was mainly on account of lack of milestone revenue. Let's move on now to PainCheck Limited, who said that it has reached 127,000 licensed Australian residential aged care approved beds, and notably PainCheck is the world's first app that uses AI and smartphone technology to assess pain in people with Alzheimer's and dementia. Over to the BNPL space, major player Sezzle Inc. said that it has entered into a 3-year agreement with the US-based retailer Target Corporation following the conclusion of its proof of concept, and notably the shares of Qantas Airways would be in focus on Thursday after the rival airline, Regional Express Holdings or REX Limited, accused it of failing to provide more than $1 billion worth of refunds during the coronavirus pandemic. Let's now focus the lens on the crypto space, as it deserves a closer look as well. Cryptocurrencies are becoming stable and seem to have absorbed all the negative news that was bombarded on this space in May. Bitcoin is trading 3.29% up at US $37,889, while its peers Dogecoin was up 13.2% and Ethereum was up as well 3.89%. Let's take a look at the market players. These players are closely eyeing the key economic data releases today. The Australian calendar includes data releases on the international trade in goods and services, retail trade assets and liabilities of Australian securitisers. And meanwhile, the global calendar includes the data release on US initial jobless claims, market services and composite PMI for May, Eurozone's market services and composite PMI for May, Japan's Jibun bank services and composite PMI for May, and China's Caixin services and composite PMI for May. Thanks for joining us on that one. That's all for now. We have a very special live interview with the founder and CEO of Moroku shortly, Mr. Colin Weir, so please stay tuned.